What's going on, guys? Wei Koh here. Here to talk to you about a watch that's on my wrist today that I think is really cool. So it's a Jacques Bianchi diving watch. And who's Jacques Bianchi? Well, you know, not all legends in the watch industry are born in Switzerland. Jacques Bianchi is a native of Marseille, and he actually for many years worked in the old port of Marseille. I think he still does at the age of 80. And does he have any legitimacy in creating a diving watch? Well, let's first look at a picture of him. So looking at him, look at the white beard, look at the sort of flowing white locks, look at his build. Who does he remind you of? To me, he reminds me of Neptune, right? Like he should be sitting there with a trident, you know, harnessing the power of the sea, having, you know, riding a seahorse, that kind of thing. But anyway, I joke, Jacques Bianchi is something of a legend in the diving watch community. He's a native of Marseille, as I mentioned. He started off getting qualified to work on different watches, including Jaeger, including Eterna, and a bunch of others. By 1974, he became qualified to work on Rolex watches. He's also very well known for servicing the majority of the Comex watches because Comex was based in Marseille as well, and the divers would come to him to work on all of their watches. So he was a very reliable figure, kind of a mythical figure out there as well, even knew Jacques Cousteau. So in 1982, he created his own diving watch, which was called the JB200, which looked pretty much exactly like the watch that I have on my wrist. It was different in that it was slightly thinner because it housed a quartz movement, which was very much in vogue in the context of 1982, right? But what I liked about that watch, or what I like about this watch, is it's completely unique in terms of design. Like there's many diving watches out there that you could say are a little bit derivative of like the entrenched player. You know which one I'm talking about. But this one's completely different. Like I love the shape of the case at 42 mm. It's completely original. It kind of looks like a manta ray to me. It's got these really swooping sort of like shapes to it. The crown guards are really cool. It's got the circular brushing to the surface of it, complemented by these polished flanks on the watch. It's a destro, or I guess I'm borrowing this term from like, you know, Panerai collectors, but it's got its crown on the left-hand side as the original watch did as well. Why? Just to keep it out of the way of your wrist as you're swimming around, right? What's really noticeable about the watch is, of course, the configuration of the dial. So it's got this really lovely granular texture to it, and it has the outline of a frogman. And then on top of that, you've got really distinct hands. So you've got a baton-shaped hour hand, a arrow-shaped minute hand, and then you've got a rectangular lollipop seconds hand as well. So all three of these hands are really distinct, and because they're applied with a huge amount of superluminova, they're really easy to read in the dark and distinguish from one another. The other thing I really like about this watch, and guys, at a Kickstarter price of 590 something euro, it's insane that this bezel's also got superluminova on each and every index, right? Like I love that, and I think that every single watch should have that. And when I think about diving watches with luminous bezels, the only ones I can think of are the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, the Pelagos from Tudor, now the Aqua Racer from Tag Heuer, and pretty much the Jacques Bianchi. So, you know, when I talk about like delivering a very high value proposition, this is it. But, you know, in the end, you judge a watch based on like your emotions. And when I put this on, I remember when they sent it to me, they were like, hey, can you review this? I don't have any sort of financial, situation with the people from Jacques Bianchi. And I said, you know what, I'll look at it, and if I like it, I will, and if I don't, maybe I won't. And I loved it. I thought it was really cool. I love the outline of the frogman. They've done a very faithful homage to the JB200. 60 examples of that watch, incidentally, were purchased by the French Navy to be worn by various people in the French Navy. What were their exact professions? I don't know. Maybe one of them was the naval mime. But anyway, I think it's an incredibly cool watch. So Jacques Bianchi later on in life decided that he wanted to create this homage to this watch that he created back in 1982. And so he spoke to a gentleman named Fabrice Puget, who is the guy behind Matte Watches, which is a brand that does these cool kind of military themed watches. And I have to say the watch that they came up with from a quality perspective is awesome. Even the strap is just so beautifully executed. It's got this kind of vintage style rubber diving strap. And like, look at this, you know, it's got this kind of vintage texture to it, and then inside of there, right, these kind of these forms allow your wrist to breathe a little bit better because not all of the strap is against the surface of your skin, which I think is really cool. Screw down case back, as you would imagine on a 200 meters water resistant watch. So the movement inside of here is the Seiko NH35, which is a 3 Hertz movement with 41 hours of power reserve, and which is a pretty much rock solid and super reliable movement. The original watch had a date window at 6 o'clock, which they've eliminated, and they've just put, you know, a beautiful 6 o'clock hour marker there, and it works really well. I also like the use of the sort of I want to say cream colored or ivory superluminova, which is obviously meant to be a bit of a nod to the vintage tritium that you would find on the original watches. However, they didn't overdo it, and the watch glows super bright. It's a phenomenal timepiece. I have to say, it puts a huge smile on my face. And again, like I said, you judge a watch based on how it pleases you emotionally. I've had this on my wrist now for the last week, and it's just a killer watch. It's a no-brainer at €595. I think you almost have a moral imperative to go out there and buy one and make sure that you put a smile on Mr. Bianchi's face. It's awesome. Now, the other thing that's really cool is the great people behind Jacques Bianchi have also agreed to make one unique piece of this watch with a pink diver on it for our Pink Dial project. So I want to thank them very much. Mr. Bianchi, Mr. Pouget, thank you, and peace, guys. Great watch.